How will your finances be impacted by the result of the 2024 presidential election? That is the question. So as inflation rises and wages stagnate, let's talk about how you can secure your financial future regardless of who makes it into the White House. So there's a lot of talk about how the next president is going to impact our wallets, whether it be how they're going to handle inflation and finally bring the price of eggs down, or how they're going to make housing more affordable, because we know for millions of Americans, housing is very unaffordable right now. And unfortunately, a lot of this talk is very fear-based. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the ways that the government can impact our finances, but also I want to talk about how you can be in control of your finances no matter what policies the government puts in place. So let's get started. So the first way that I wanted to talk about how the government can impact our finances is through, everyone hates it, taxes. Taxes are basically how the government makes money, how they make revenue in order to fund all of the many programs that they have, such as Social Security or Medicare or even defense of our country. So although we don't like it, taxes are kind of unavoidable. So the next president can definitely impact our finances through how they deal with taxes. They can pass policies that can raise or lower our taxes. So if you own a home, then you pay property taxes, and the more property taxes that you have to pay, the less money that you have in your pocket. So the second way the next president can impact your finances is through how they deal with inflation. The president can't directly increase or decrease inflation, but what they can do is pass certain legislation, such as a stimulus package that could result in inflation. So for example, in 2021, the American Rescue Act was passed, which is a massive spending plan, and it was supposed to stimulate the economy from the effects of the pandemic. And while at the time that was so helpful for most Americans to get extra money in their pockets, it did have unintended consequences of inflation. And so now everything is more expensive. When you go to the grocery store, all your food is more expensive. When you go to the gas pump, that's more expensive. Housing is more expensive because interest rates are up. So although the president cannot directly change inflation, they can certainly pass legislation that could cause it. The third way the next president can impact your finances, and something I'm not hearing either candidate talk enough about, is the national debt and deficit. Currently, in 2024, the national debt is $35 trillion, which equates to $106,000 for every person in America. And if that wasn't bad enough, the national deficit is around $2 trillion a year. So why does it matter that we have such a high national debt? Well, simply, if the government doesn't have money, they can't invest in the future of this country. So just think about it as if it's your household. If you have such high debt, you can't do as much investing in your 401k, you can't go on vacations as much as you want to, or you can't put away money into your kids' college fund as much as you want. So if the government is so burdened with debt, they're less able to invest in certain social programs or even respond to national emergencies. So although it seems like a far off problem, oh, the next generations can worry about the national debt, it's a problem for every American today. So what I'm looking for in the next president is how they're going to deal with the national debt, which will include less spending, because we need to get our national deficit down so we're not continuing to add to the national debt. So now that we've talked about what the government can control, I want to talk about what you can control. And this is the exciting part, because not only do I want to inform you, but I also want to empower you on your financial journey. Strategy number 1, control your spending. It is so important to control your spending, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, because you don't have wiggle room for if the president decides to raise taxes or if inflation shoots back up. You really need to get your spending under control. So how do you get control of your spending? Well, what I recommend is start by looking at what I call the big 3. That is your housing costs, your car payment, and your food budget. These 3 expenses typically take up the largest portion of your monthly income, so if you can cut costs in any of these 3 areas, you'll have a lot more margin for saving money. So when I was living paycheck to paycheck and I wanted to get a handle on my finances, I started by tracking every expense. And what I did was I basically just got a notebook and a pen, and every time I spent money, I wrote it in that notebook. And the funny thing is, after a month, I realized that I was spending over $900 a month just on food. on eating out and grocery shopping. I could not believe it. And so because I saw that, I was able to do something about it. So I would recommend starting by tracking your expenses. That will give you a much clearer picture of where your money is going, and then you can make informed decisions on where it's best to cut costs. Take a look at your car payment as well. Did you know that the average car payment right now is $734? To me, that's just criminal. I mean, if you could even just invest $500 of that per month in over 30 years, I looked it up, it is $700,000. You would almost be a millionaire. Definitely take a look at the big three and see where you can cut costs, because that will greatly reduce your money-related stress. Strategy number 2, reduce your risk. So no matter how bad the economy is or who is in the White House, there are certain things that are always a bad idea, and that includes high interest debt. So that's your car payments, your credit cards, payday loans, and even those pesky buy now, pay later loans, which, yes, that is debt. So the first step to getting out of debt is really changing your mindset around debt. And you have to think of debt like a thief. So if you knew that someone was going to come to your house and rob you, would you open the door, let them in, get them a glass of lemonade? No, you would lock the door, close all the windows, you would call the police, you would even, get something to protect yourself, and that's only reasonable. See, the problem is most of us think of debt like a friend. I know I did when I first got my credit card, and I went and bought, some clothes, and I bought a TV, and I got my first credit card bill, and everything that I bought was probably like $1,000, but my credit card bill, they just wanted $50, and I was like, what? This is awesome. I can get a TV and all that I want, and all I gotta pay is $50. I truly thought that they were doing me a favor. I truly thought, like, this is amazing, but I didn't realize, I had no financial literacy, and so I didn't realize that, no, girl, you're gonna pay $2,000 for that $1,000 TV. It's not your friend. So you really have to change your mindset around debt. You have to see it as a thief, because it is robbing your financial future. I mean, I know so many people that would quit their job if they could, because they hate their boss, or it's just a toxic work environment, or they just really want to pursue their passion, but they can't because they have debt and they have to make those payments, so they can't afford a pay cut. And that's just the worst place to be, when you can't move the way you want to move. And that means you're being controlled by debt. And I don't want to be controlled by anything. So if it is in my power, I want to get out of debt and have the freedom to change jobs, to move, or to make the decisions that I want to make. So no matter who ends up in the Oval Office, getting out of debt is in your control, and I want you to give yourself the power of choice back by reducing your risk and getting out of debt. Before going to the next point, if this video has been helpful for you so far, please give me a thumbs up down below. Strategy number 3, build financial resilience. If the past 10 to 15 years has taught us anything, it's that it is very risky to rely just on one stream of income. So I think back to 2008 with the financial crisis, so many people lost their jobs. Or even in 2020 with the pandemic, so many people were furloughed because their jobs were deemed non-essential. Can you imagine losing the only income that you have with no notice? That's a very, very scary place to be. And it's because we're not as resilient to withstand unexpected events like that, because we're relying on one stream of income. I want you to have multiple sources of income so that you can become more financially resilient. So bottom line, can the next president impact your finances? Yes. But you have more control over what happens in your financial future than the president does. So focus on controlling your spending, getting out of debt, and building multiple streams of income, and that will put you in a position of power. And I want you to be empowered so you can start making the choices that give you the life that you want. So if this video has been helpful for you, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to read your comments, and let me know what other videos you would like for me to make on topics like this. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye!